Dear generation, what if the only thing holding the future back is the past we refuse to let go of? The future would break through is a powerful reflection on history, hope, and the choice to break the cycle. In this new episode, we explore the timeless tension between past, present, and future, how inherited fear, repeated mistakes, and generational doubt keep humanity trapped in cycles of stagnation. But what if we chose differently? Through poetic narration and historical reflection, this piece challenges us to imagine a future not defined by what has been, but by what could be if we dare to dream, to believe, and to break through. The past had ruled for centuries. It built its empire on repetition, a cycle of familiar choices, familiar fears, and familiar consequences. It secured its victories not just in battles or laws, but in the minds of those too afraid to imagine something new. It spoke through old voices. It held power through stories passed down, stories not meant to inspire but to warn, stories that etched disappointment into the hearts of generations. It insisted the world had broken before and would break again. It chained progress to old mistakes. It cloaked the future in doubt, in illusion, in deep fakes and deeper fears. It reminded us again and again of every time we'd tried and failed, every time hope was betrayed, every time change ended in chaos. But the future would not surrender. It called out, quiet at first, but rising, insistent, urgent, undeniable. It spoke not of what was, but what could be, of skies clean again, of lands healed, of people who refused to repeat the sins of their ancestors. It dared to paint a new vision, and it demanded that the present listen. It refused to be bound by what had been. It stood with the dreamers, the believers, the risk-takers, the ones who refused to accept that humanity was doomed to repeat itself forever. And still the past resisted. It tightened its grip. It whispered doubt. In textbooks, in speeches, in traditions dressed as truth. It told the present that peace had always been impossible, that freedom always led to division. That blood had always been the price of change. It weaponized memory. It laughed at vision. It mocked belief. And yet, the future still pushed forward. It didn't claim experience. It claimed possibility. Not certainty, but hope. Not repetition, but reinvention. It challenged the world to breathe again, for rivers to run, for children to thrive, for nature to rise, for humanity to evolve. And so, the present stands between two forces. On one side, the weight of the past, heavy with fear, scarred with failure. On the other, the pull of the future, light with promise, alive with potential. The future. One moment will come. One choice will be made. And when it is, the future would break through.
Past tense versus present future.
The past had ruled for centuries. It had built its empire, on repetition had sealed its victories. In the minds of those who had feared the mission, it had spoken through old voices. It had shaped laws. It had held power in stories that had warned against any cause. It had reminded the present of nations, had carved disappointment into the hearts of generations, had insisted that the world had broken before and would break again in another war. It had chained progress to old mistakes, had wrapped the future in doubt,
The future.
in deep fake. But the future would not surrender.
The future.
It would call out.
The future.
It would rise.
The future.
It would promise renewal, no doubt.
The future.
It would paint visions of clean skies, of healed lands, of people who would not repeat the sins of their lost friends. It would push forward. It would break through. Would demand that present. Would choose a new who. It would not be bound by what had been. It would stand with those who would dream, who would reach, who would refuse to believe first ever that humanity had been doomed to repeat itself forever. The past had resisted. It had tightened its grip,
Grip.
had fueled doubt,
And fueled doubt.
had whispered centenary shades of whip.
Whip.
It had told the present that peace had been impossible, that freedom had always led to roads uncrossable. The world had never changed without blood.
Blood.
It had used fear, had used guilt, had crawled in mud,
Mud.
had reminded people of every revolution that had failed, of every leader who had been bailed. It had laughed at the future, had mocked its faith.
They had said.
They had said,
They had said.
the world had been broken too many times. Beyond the line read, when the planet would breathe, when children would grow,
When children would grow.
when the green would glow,
When the green would glow.
when rivers would flow,
When rivers would flow.
when the planet would breathe,
When the planet would breathe.
when children would grow,
When children would grow.
when the green would glow,
When the green would glow.
when rivers would flow. So, the past had claimed experience. The future had claimed a vision. The present,
The present.
caught between revisions. One moment would come,
The future.
one choice would be true,
The future.
and when it would,
The future.
the future would break through.
Would break through. The future would break through. Would break through.
One moment will come.
The future would break through.
Thank you for listening to our musical podcast.